The story I just do not think is getting as much attention as it should, but the UN has released a long-awaited report about the Chinese government and their possible crimes against humanity, human rights violations in regard to the Uyghur Muslims and other Muslim groups in China. So we'll read a little bit about the specifics in a second here, but it's so important that this gets focused on, because right now they're able to gather information and do some level of investigations, but to actually get on the ground and do everything that you need to do to get the proper evidence, hold the proper people accountable, and get justice would take a level of cooperation from the Chinese government that we're not going to get if the entire world isn't putting pressure on them. Because for the UN to do certain things, they need compliance from one of the most powerful members of the UN, which is China, obviously. And so you're in this tough situation where they're doing investigations, they're trying to put out information about it, but China isn't yet pressured enough to actually comply with any sort of investigation or something like that. So definitely important, but let's read a little bit about this from CNN. China has committed serious human rights violations against Uyghur Muslims in its northwestern region of Xinjiang, which may amount to crimes against humanity, according to a long-awaited report released Wednesday by the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. The detailed 45-page report, published just minutes before outgoing Commissioner Michelle Bachelet's term in office came to an end at midnight Geneva time, had been repeatedly delayed and its release vehemently opposed by China. The report, which documented what it described as arbitrary and discriminatory detention of members of Uyghur and other predominantly Muslim groups within the context of the government's application of counterterrorism and counter-extremism strategy. So that was the excuse and the answer they would give when asked. Oh, this is related to counterterrorism and counter-extremism strategies. Yeah, okay. Was hailed by rights groups as a groundbreaking moment in the effort to hold the Chinese government to account. And how this started getting some attention, and this is reading from the actual report itself, was, I'll read from it. In late 2017, the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights began receiving increasing allegations by various civil society groups that members of the Uyghur and other predominantly Muslim ethnic minority communities were missing or had disappeared in this region. And so they had groups of people going missing, or I should say people from specific groups going missing. No answer. What's going on? And now, as we've seen over the years, we're getting a little bit more of a clear picture, and it's a very unfortunate and horrible picture. And the report comes 4 years after a committee of UN experts called attention in August 2018 to credible reports that more than 1 million Uyghur and other Muslim minority peoples were interned in extrajudicial camps in Xinjiang for re-education and indoctrination. Obviously, the Chinese government has denied these claims, but the article also describes how people got interviewed who had gone through this, and they talked about just all different levels of abuse, torture, having to take pills that made them feel different ways and getting injected with things. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know when they're going to be able to leave. Being sexually assaulted and then having to be sexually, exploited in humiliating ways and all of these things. And so just deeply saddening and disgusting stuff going on. Again, reports of over 1 million Uyghur and other Muslim groups being a part of this and being treated in just the worst way possible. So I'm glad the UN finally released this report. Hopefully it'll call more attention to this issue. But as I mentioned, because the Chinese government is so powerful and has so much sway in the UN, getting them to comply with a deeper level, a more broad, scale investigation of these accusations and of the evidence that is available at this point, we got to do some serious pressure as a global community. I mean, not we in my community or anything like that, us too. But the UN needs to do everything possible to strong arm the Chinese government into complying with deeper levels of investigations and hopefully get some sort of justice for all of these individuals that have been treated so horribly.